My name is Carla Nivert and I am extremely passionate about pregnancy, birth and babies and helping you to find your way through and embrace both the messy and magical things on this extraordinary journey of bringing your precious baby into this world. I'm a small-town mama who has taken a leap and become a certified birth educator and have a very deep desire to help as many mothers as I can around the world. I want you to feel ready, confident and excited to go into labor so you can have your best chance at a smooth, calm and a beautiful natural birth. So please get comfy and ready to learn all you need to know to feel prepared and informed about your pregnancy, birth and easing into breastfeeding with confidence. We won't shy away from the real talk. This is the Birth Serenity Podcast. It is only over the last few decades that women's role in the history has been given some recognition. Previously, the history of women's political organization, their struggle for freedom from oppression, for community rights, and importantly for gender equality was largely ignored. It was the men who had authority in society, women were seen as subordinate to men, and women's role was primarily a domestic one. It included child rearing and seeing to the well-being, feeding and care of the family. They were not expected to concern themselves with matters outside the home. That was more properly the domain of men. Women's behavior has been judged and controlled throughout history. We are supposed to be good girls, do as we are told, and not create any problems for anyone. However, the act of giving birth is primal and wild. Let's quickly look at the relevant parts of the brain involved during labor and also their functions to fully understand where I'm going with this. First, we have the neocortex. This is the thinking part of the brain, which is a part of the brain that has evolved to allow us to be so-called higher mammals. It's the ultimate control and information processing center in the brain. It's responsible for many higher order brain functions such as sensation, perception, memory, association, thought, and voluntary physical action. Human beings are very special mammals due to the unique capacity of the human brain for conscious awareness. Our minds make us unique amongst mammals. They are an extraordinary gift from God. However, during a physically intense and involuntary process such as labor, it's this part of the brain that sometimes screws things up. And that's why it is so important to learn how to switch this part of the brain off during labor that overthinks everything and to start functioning from the limbic part of the brain. So now let's look at the limbic part of the brain. The limbic system is the part of the brain involved in our behavioral and emotional responses, especially when it comes to behaviors we need for survival, like feeding, reproduction, giving birth, and caring for our children. How we behave during birthing originates in the limbic system, the area of the brain shared by all mammals. During labor, these ancient limbic system structures are the most active, or that's the way it is supposed to be. Like I've said, some mothers have a hard time to switch off that part of the brain that overthinks everything. If you want more information on this, feel free to send me a message or an email after you have listened to this episode. So to labor well, we need to shut down our neocortex, that thinking human part of the brain, and the result then is instinctive animalistic birthing behavior. And because we are all unique and different, our birthing behavior is unique and different. Some women become quiet, withdrawn, and completely in control, and others become loud, wild, and seemingly out of control. For many, it is somewhere in between, or both at different times during labor. Just like behavior during sex, that is also controlled by the limbic system. There are similarities between humans, but we all behave slightly differently. In some antenatal classes, the educators will actually tell you to not make any noise during labor. They say that will distract you from focusing your energy in the right direction during birth. I've heard of many women being told by nurses in the hospital setting to keep quiet, to not frighten the other women. The idea that there is a right way to behave, or even worse, a wrong way to behave, is unhelpful and judgemental, and in my opinion, it shows a lack of basic knowledge about how birth works. So it seems that being quiet and controlled is considered by society to be the best way to birth. How many times have you heard of a woman's labor described in a positive way because she was so in control and quietly breathed her baby out? On the other hand, the loud woman is encouraged to breathe, to stop screaming and shouting, and to focus. These women are often described as not coping and out of control, when in fact they are coping just fine, but loudly. It is those around them who are not coping. Dr. Michelle Udon, whom I've had on one of my previous podcast episodes, says that the intense fear and the sense of losing it, often experienced near the end of the labor, facilitates the fetal ejection reflex. And not many women experience this because caregivers intervene to calm the woman and to help her gain control of herself. And actually all that they are doing is making the labor process longer. I want to share my own experiences with you. With my second, it was a quiet, breathe baby out experience. But with my first, there came sounds from me that I've never heard before or since that night ever again. And I remember at one point between contractions apologizing to my midwife for all the noise I make. Fortunately, she was completely fine with it and told me to continue doing what I do. But this makes me think it's not just caregivers but also mothers who judge themselves for losing control and making noise. I find it sad to hear a birthing woman apologizing for her instinctive behavior, and I've seen this at many births before. Hopefully, after listening to this podcast, never again. So like I've said before, there are antenatal programs teaching mothers how to be quiet and in control during birth. Unfortunately, some women who have undergone this training feel like failures when their instincts take over and they become vocal during birth. Birth is the ultimate experience of expressing primal power and instincts. Here you have a woman expressing immense power and strength, and the response is to shut her up and encourage her to act like a good girl, to not upset anyone, including herself. So please share this episode with all your pregnant friends so we can honor our birthing behavior, whatever it may be. Whether you are a quiet, breathing birther like I was with my second, or a loud and a wild birther like I was with my first, you are equally but differently amazing and doing what you need to get your baby out. Midwives and doctors and doulas need to learn to distinguish between a woman who is expressing her wild birthing instincts from a woman who genuinely needs reassurance and calming. Mothers, I want you to talk to your caregivers before birth about what you will say if you really do need help and reassurance, when you are feeling that you are really not coping. And caregivers, I want you to make sure that the mothers know that you will not judge anything she says or does during labor. Mamas, it is also a good idea that you see and hear birth stories that show a range of birthing behaviors, not just the quiet and in control types. Be sure to visit the original blog post to see videos like this and what I mean. Even though these mothers are loud, they are still perfectly in control and beautifully birthing their babies. Are you pregnant, hoping for a smooth, calm, beautiful natural birth? Let us help you with that. In the Birth Serenity Antenatal Program, we focus on natural birth and would be honored to help and support you to prepare yourself in the best possible way, both mentally and physically, for your birth. Our aim is to help you find peace and accept your birth, whichever way it turns out. For more information, go to birthserenity.com.